Joining me now is anesthesiologist Dr. Heidi Klesig. Doctor, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us. I want you to know that the interview we did last week with you and Tamara Scott, which is how I met you. Tamara has you on regularly, one of our broadcasters at noon Central, 1 Eastern at worldviewtube.com. That interview, we did a clip. It has now received over 2 million views in just a few days.
Well, Brannon, thanks so much for having me back. I think this is a topic that it's long overdue for people to be scrutinizing what's been going on in organ donation and transplant. So I'm glad you're getting the word out.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that, though, that disturbed me was how there was a percentage of people, I don't know what percentage, but a percentage of people attacking you because you were being truthful and honest and transparent about when you realized what was going on, and you were shocked the first day you walked in and you had to try to process this and move forward. I was shocked at the number of people that instead of thanking you were attacking you. So I'm assuming you must have seen this on your own as you go out there and speak about this.
You know, honestly, most of the people that I speak to, they say to me, you know, I always sort of had a feeling there was something wrong with that, but I could never put my finger on it. You know, once in a while, I do get sort of an angry response, but honestly, you know, I take that as a win. I mean, I think getting angry is the proper response. And when people get angry, they often lash out. But honestly, I was angry when I first realized that I had been deceived, that I had bought into a system that was, you know, against my conscience. So I think people who get angry, I think they're showing the proper response, and I'm sure those people will think about it later.
Yeah, well, I just think they should be thanking you for being humble and transparent and coming forward, because, you know, your book and your interviews are reaching literally, now we know for a fact on our end, millions of people. Now, we do have some good news today. We're being told in one alert, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has announced his vow to ban organ harvesting from patients who show any signs of life. So this is good news today.
Yes, that's very good news. That's what everybody, of course, should want. We should want the people who are being so selfless as to donate for others. We should want them to be biologically dead at the time of their donation. It's hard to imagine having any problem with that.
Yeah, isn't it, though? Now, I understand that when you are on the organ donor list, this is a binding contract that can stop your family from intervening. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, that is correct. And it's really a shame, because when people are asked to become an organ donor, they're never given any type of informed consent process. They're just told, here, you know, put this sticker on your driver's license. But once you have registered as an organ donor, that is considered a legally binding decision. And in fact, people have had family members saying, you know, I'm sorry, our son, I know he's a registered organ donor, but he told us he had changed his mind and he just didn't have time to change the designation on his license. Sorry, in a case in Ohio, the Organ Procurement Organization took that case to court and won the right to take organs over the objections of that man's family, which was devastating, of course, to them. And right now in Arkansas, there's a law that had just been passed. There was a representative down in Arkansas who was sitting at the bedside of his elderly father who was passing away. And the decision had been made, let's withdraw care on Grandpa and let him pass into eternity. But the whole situation was put on hold because the hospital said, we can't just do that. We have to notify organ procurement because Grandpa was a registered organ donor. Well, this representative said he was confronted with his weeping mother, his weeping sister, and it threw the family into a real loop of distress. So he introduced a bill in the Arkansas State House, and then it was also passed in the Arkansas State Senate. The state senator said that they had worked with the organ procurement people on adding a couple of amendments to have everybody satisfied. And that law was scheduled to go into effect this week in Arkansas. So if the law had continued, people family in Arkansas would have had the right to stop an organ procurement, even if their family member had been a registered organ donor. But the Organ Procurement Agency has now challenged in federal court to stop this law being passed by the representatives of the people of Arkansas. And that was supposed to go before a district judge for review this afternoon, and I have not yet heard how that turned out.
Well, let's keep an eye on that one. Let's go to another story that you sent me. Stephen Greer, MD, anti-transhumanist. At Real Donald Trump just did something very important with HHS via Secretary Kennedy. This is a surprise announcement. I have not seen RFK discuss it before. It was not on the agenda. Tell me about this, please.
Well, RFK Jr. has been very responsive to a review, an independent review that was done by the Health Resources and Services Administration, HSRA. There was the index case that I think we talked about last time of TJ Hoover, who had been declared brain dead but was thrashing and moving around and crying on the table on the way to become an organ donor. And thankfully that case was called off, and Mr. Hoover was able to recover and even dance at his sister's wedding a year or so later. But when the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network was asked to review that case, they basically closed the folder and said nothing to see here. So HRSA did their own independent examination. They looked at 351 cases where organ donation was authorized but not completed. And they found shocking numbers. They found 103 cases, 29.3%, showing concerning features. They said there were 73 patients, 21%, with neurological signs incompatible with organ donation. And they said there were 28 patients, which was 8%, who may not have been deceased at the time organ procurement was started. So Secretary Kennedy oversees all that, and he's going to continue the investigation along with the House Energy and Commerce Committee, who met about this issue on Tuesday, July 22nd of this year. They're going to be meeting again in September to continue the inquiry.
Wow, excellent. Tell me this story here. Brain death survivor Jennifer Hammond. Can you tell me this story that you tweeted about on July 23rd? It's pretty inspirational.
Sure. Yeah, Jennifer Hammond is a brain death survivor. On our website, respectforhumanlife.com. We have a whole page of these, but I was able to speak with Jenny personally on the telephone. She was a young woman back in the late 1980s. She has a seizure disorder, and unfortunately, a doctor prescribed for her an antibiotic that was incompatible with her seizure medication, throwing her into intractable seizures. Because of that, she was on a ventilator in an ICU and was declared brain dead. Now, inwardly, Jenny was completely aware of what was going on around her. She simply could not move or sign to let anybody know. And so she told me she was lying there in the ICU on a ventilator, and she heard footsteps, tromping in, and she heard her doctor's voice saying, this is a sad case, a young woman with 2 small children at home, and other than her dead brain, she is an excellent specimen. So many people could be helped by her organs, but her husband is being completely unreasonable and won't make her a donor. And there's nothing Jenny could do but lay there and listen to that. She said the nursing staff, too, some of them treated her as less than human. She remembers one nurse saying, "Would you come over here and help me turn this thing?" But on the bright side, there was also an excellent nurse. And Jenny really attributes her recovery to this wonderful nurse who never gave up on her. She would say to her, "Jenny, I know you're in there. Come on, you need to try to take a breath. You can do it." And Jenny said to me, it felt as though the connections in her body were somehow lost. She couldn't really find the connections on how to breathe again, she thought. But as the nurse encouraged her, she remembered suddenly, there it is. And she took a long, deep breath, which was the beginning of her recovery. And Jenny not only got out of ICU, off the ventilator, but she went on to become a nurse herself so as to be able to help other patients in her situation.
Went on to become a nurse herself. Wow. Well, you have so many stories like this. I mean, I can't imagine being basically trapped in your own body. You can hear everything that's going on around you. And they're talking about killing you, talking about you like, help me turn this thing. I mean, I can't even imagine being in a situation like that. That's the stuff that horror movies are made of in part, right?
That's right. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't remember. Did we talk about Zach Dunlap last time? And he had a similar situation. Zach Dunlap was a young man who was in a four-wheel ATV.
Yes, and his cousin used a knife against his foot, right, to make him jerk.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
That's
When you posted about this, the New York Times, I guess JAMA, are they trying to redefine what it means to be dead so they can harvest more organs?
Well, take a look at those two headlines, right? One, the one on the left is from 1968, and the one on the right is from just the other week. And both of these are saying we should redefine more people as being dead already because we need them for organ donors. And I found that fascinating that the three doctors who wrote the op-ed in the New York Times not too long ago, they cited the original 1968 Harvard ad hoc committee as saying this is something we need to do, not because these people are actually dead, but as a utilitarian way of providing more organs. So I thought that was a nice juxtaposition to show really it's been a redefinition of death from the very beginning. These people who we are making organ donors today are in no way dead.
I don't want to put you on the spot or get you in trouble because I don't know what your employment situation is. So if you need to pass on this question, go right ahead. But did you ever think that the medical profession would become big organizations and these big, massive hospitals, corporations, that this would all become a system that's so evil and really antithetical to human rights, the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, the American value system? Did you ever think you'd see America's hospital system, medical system become, in some ways, very similar to the history we saw going in Germany, where you had death centers, murdering disabled children, murdering the seniors, and really laid the foundation for the technology, if you will, that was the foundation for the Holocaust? Did you ever think you would see this in America?
I don't think that the hospital system is really any different than the legal system, than the educational system, than any other system. I think generally, as a people, we have lost our reverence for human life. We have lost our respect for human life. And doctors and nurses are part of that same societal trend.
So would you be nervous to find yourself in a hospital as a patient? What kind of precautions would you take? Would you be sure you had a family advocate that was there on your behalf? What would you do as a doctor, knowing now what you know?
Sure. I think it's important, especially right now when these facts are coming to light. I think that it's important not to participate in this unethical system currently. So I do recommend that whereas living donation, in which both the donor and the recipient remain alive after the procedure, which is a wonderful thing, I don't think we should participate in these more ethically questionable types of donations, such as donation after so-called brain death. Brain death is not death. It's a social construct. It's a legal fiction. These people are neurologically injured, and their prognosis may be death. But if you take someone with a prognosis of death and hasten that along, that's called euthanasia. That's not an ethical thing to do. And the way doctors are taking donors who have had 2 to 5 minutes of pulselessness and beginning to harvest organs, those people are in no way dead. Everybody knows, and it's well documented, people are routinely resuscitated after 2 to 5 minutes of pulselessness. And if you could still be resuscitated, you are not dead. So again, these people are not dead. So I recommend that you should tell your doctor, please put in my medical record that I'm not a registered organ donor. If you are a donor currently, you should have it removed removed from your driver's license and the National Donor Registry. You should put in your healthcare power of attorney that you are not an organ donor and that when you are in the hospital, you want to be treated. It's very important to have family members available with this same information to watch out for you in case you're not able to communicate for yourself. So yes, you should have family, a healthcare surrogate, or a patient advocate there in your court to be sure that your wishes are complied with.
You used a key word there was in my mind to ask you about. You've already invoked the word euthanasia. Mm-hmm. There seems to be a real rise in the talk of euthanasia and ways for people to euthanize themselves. These death pods, even commercials we have from the United Nations from several years ago, older people saying, I've lived a good life. I've lived a good life. And basically saying people should be, I guess, offing themselves at some point because they're just no longer, they're a drain on society, on resources, etc. This is all so wrong, but whether it's the death pods, the legislation in states in America, Canada, people being encouraged to commit suicide, doctor-assisted suicide, which they want to call, dying with dignity. They give it all kinds of nice names. It's murder. People who are depressed, who have any kind of difficulty in their life, well, maybe you should just off yourself. How much do you think this push for euthanasia is tied to money and organ harvesting? It has to be not just the person being paid to have you get in the pod and kill yourself, the death pods they're creating, but there's got to be a whole money train there. Is organ harvesting a part of this push for active euthanasia?
Well, in countries where euthanasia is legal, such as in Canada or in the Netherlands, yes, they do take organs as part of that process. And to me, it's hard for me to think of something more damaging to a human being than to tell them, your life is worthless, but your organs are valuable. So why don't you become an organ donor and actually be killed via organ harvesting? I think that's a very damaging thing to tell a person who's already questioning their value and their humanity.
In closing, tell me about this story. You have so many of them. Three-week-old Harrison Elmer. Tell me about Harrison.
He was a little boy who had meningitis, and his family was told, his brain is gone, and so they loved their little boy, and they decided they didn't want him to suffer, and so they thought they would remove him from the ventilator in a dignified way and let him die in their arms. But lo and behold, when the ventilator was removed, little Harrison breathed. And he went on to get better, and he went on to grow up, and his mom said that he was meeting his milestones just like any other little boy, which points up the fact that, doctors are not omniscient. They make the best call they can based on their training and their experience, but they don't always know when someone is irreversibly comatose. And this little boy and the other survivors on our website prove that point.
Anything else on your radar that you should alert our audience to that I'm not asking you about?
I always tell people, don't wait until it's your time of crisis to think about these things. Please take a look at my information now. If you find what I'm saying upsetting, take a look at my website and see what you think.
What's the website?
Evaluate the information. It's www.respectforhumanlife.com. And again, when you're going through a time of crisis, when you're looking at a little child on a ventilator and you haven't slept and you haven't eaten, that's not the time to make these decisions. So please, even though we don't like thinking about death, take the time and look at the website, the videos, the information I have, and make the conclusion that fits with your conscience.
Yeah, indeed. Respectforhumanlife.com. So good news today. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is on this one. So we're thankful for that, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Keep us posted, will you, Doctor?
Thank you. I will.
Look forward to having you back. Check out our website in the meantime, folks. A lot of information there, as you can see. types of organ donation, how much is a human body worth, how do I get off the donor list, so much there. Respectforhumanlife.com. And remember, she's got a book. There it is. The Brain Death Fallacy. Dr. Heidi Klesig. You can get it at Amazon or right there on the website, respectforhumanlife.com. We'll take you a link to it. Thanks again to Tamara Scott for introducing us to the doctor. Tamara has been having her on for quite some time on her broadcast, which airs right here on World YouTube, noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern Standard, each and every day, Monday through Friday. So thank you to Tamara Scott, and thank you to Dr. Heidi Klesig. Again, the little clip we put out last week, it's done about 2 million or over 2 million now, right, Logan? Over 2 million now in just a few days. So I think shows the great hunger on this topic by so many people. Many, many people in the feedback saying they're rushing to get off the donor registration list. I don't blame them. I'm not on it, haven't been on it because my gut told me this seems like a good way to harvest my organs. And my gut was right. So trust your gut. Or for us as Christians, it might be trust that discernment, that Holy Spirit inclination, right? Check it out. Brain Death, The Brain Death Fallacy. Get the book by Dr. Heidi and check out our website. Share it around. Respectforhumanlife.com. We'll be right back after this break.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.